Welcome to the Sound of Resistance channel. Conflicts between Russia and Ukraine continue to escalate in Ukraine. The fire never goes out in Ukraine. The sky of Ukraine is surrounded by a big cloud of smoke. The sound wave that emerged after the missiles and bombings on the fronts is deafening. The Ukrainian army is subjecting the south and east of the country to intense bombardment. All the eastern and southern lines of Ukraine are about to be dominated by the Ukrainian warriors. Many soldiers have lost their lives in the conflicts in Ukraine since February. However, Putin's army suffered the most damage. Russia lost about 80,000 soldiers in Ukraine. Huge losses in the Russian army caused the loss of morale and motivation. Of course, Ukraine was not the only loser in the Russian war. The effects of the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine began to be felt all over the world. Discussions on food and energy issues arising from the war continue to flare up with each passing day. One of the important factors triggering the economic crisis is the sanctions against Russia. The United States and its European and Asian allies imposed extensive sanctions on Russia, but they were reluctant to cut off oil and gas exports, the main lifeblood of the Russian economy, due to the potential impact on world markets. American and European officials fear that large-scale sanctions on Russian energy will lead to a worldwide rise in prices. Another big problem with Russia is the food crisis. Russia's latest statement fell on the agenda like a bomb. Russia announced that it stopped participating in the grain agreement. Russia announced that it has indefinitely suspended the agreement on the export of grain products from Ukraine and that the Russian side can no longer guarantee the safety of civilian ships passing through the corridor. During the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, Turkey's attempts to find a solution to the food crisis have been quite effective. However, in the process that started well, obstacles started to show their faces. Russia withdrew from the agreement signed for the shipment of Ukrainian grain for the world via the Black Sea. Russia explained the reason for its decision to withdraw from the agreement as follows. The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that the British-backed Kyiv regime troops attacked the Black Sea Fleet of Russia with unmanned aerial vehicles off the Crimea, and that the Russian warships that ensured the security of the grain-carrying ships became the target. The Kyiv regime attacked the Black Sea Fleet ships on October 29th. Given the terrorist attack against civilian ships tasked with securing the grain corridor and the grain corridor, the Russian side has suspended its participation in agreements on the export of agricultural products from Ukrainian ports, the statement said. Spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Maria Zakharova, stated that British experts trained the Kyiv regime troops and took an active role in the attack on Russia's Black Sea Fleet off the Crimea. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with the Russian authorities, is working on practical steps regarding the participation of British specialists in the preparation of the terrorist act in the Black Sea on October 29th and training the Ukrainian army, he said. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova stated that they are also working on practical steps against Britain. Spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Maria Zakharova said that Moscow and London directly participated in the actions carried out by the Kyiv regime, and that they would raise this issue at the United Nations Security Council. The Russian side wants to draw the attention of the world community, including the area of the UN Security Council, to a series of terrorist attacks against the Russian Federation in the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea, including the UK, Zakharova said. Statement from the Russian authorities continues after Russia's decision to suspend the grain corridor agreement, which allows grain exports from Ukrainian ports. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov announced that Ukraine had attacked the Russian fleet station in the Black Sea, which ensures the safety of the ships passing through the grain corridor, and stopped its participation in the agreement. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov said, "Since we stated that we cannot guarantee the security of the ships going and coming in these regions, it is not possible to realize the agreement under these conditions. In such a case, the agreement would take on a much more risky, dangerous and unwarranted form. You see that the actions of the Ukrainian side have caused the collapse of this agreement, spoiling the atmosphere of guaranteed security. It is necessary to understand well that the endangerment of the agreement is due to the actions of Ukrainian side," he said. Zelensky broke his silence after the statements from Russia. The Ukrainian leader said Russia deliberately began to worsen the food crisis in September. Ukrainian President Zelensky said that after Russia's decision to suspend the grain corridor agreement, Russia deliberately started to aggravate the food crisis from September and hindered the movement of ships. Zelensky said that since September, 176 Ukrainian-flagged vessels that could not follow their path have accumulated in the grain corridor, and some grain carriers have been waiting for more than 3 weeks. This is definitely a deliberate blockade of Ukraine by Russia, he said. It is Russia's absolutely transparent intention to return the threat of large-scale famine to Africa and Asia, he said. In addition to his statements, the Ukrainian leader noted that there is currently more than 2 million tons of food in the sea. This means that access to food is actually getting worse for more than 7 million consumers. With Russia's decision to block this export, many countries will be prevented from accessing food. Algeria, Egypt, Yemen, Bangladesh, Vietnam, other countries, very different countries from different parts of the world may face food threats, he said. Zelensky complained that Russia was not only blocking grain aisle roads, but also because the attack occurred during crossings in the region. At least twice during Russia's grain initiative operation, it attacked the Ukrainian Navy, precisely the forces that ensure the security of the grain corridor. A strong international response is needed at both the UN and other levels, especially at the G20 level, to these unlawful Russian attacks. President of Ukraine Zelensky also addressed the G20 member countries during his speech. It did not go unnoticed that Zelensky was quite angry during his speech. How can Russia be among the G20 if Russia is deliberately trying to bring hunger to several continents? This is bullshit. Russia has no place in the G20. All partners see this artificial ship tail. They see what Russia is doing to disrupt its grain enterprise. They see that even the grain vessels that have been contracted for the poorest countries under the UN food program are not guaranteed to pass through the sea route. Russia is doing everything possible to ensure that millions of Africans, millions of residents of the Middle East and South Asia find themselves in conditions of artificial famine, or at least a serious price crisis. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba called on the international community not to allow Russia to block the grain corridor that ensures food security for millions of people under a false pretext. The UN responded to Ukraine's call. In the statement made by the United Nations, it was stated that an agreement has been reached with Ukraine and Turkey on the action plan of 16 ships, 12 of which are outgoing and 4 are inbound, on Monday. In the statement, which stated that Moscow was informed about the agreement, it was also noted that 40 ships leaving the Ukrainian ports will be inspected today. As Russia failed to avenge its heavy defeats in the war arena, Ukraine, as always, uses different methods to weaken it. Russia can make food crisis-triggered decisions that will affect millions of people for its own success in Ukraine. Russia just wants to win. It means nothing to Russian leader Putin and Russian officials, who is affected and who gets hurt on the other side. Thanks for watching us.